Good evening. Today, we are going to investigate one of the biggest mysteries in the modern banking history. Two global banks, two financial giants, both operate within the same economic environment and both faces rising interest rates, market uncertainty, and tightening financial conditions. Yet, their biggest challenge came from very different places. For Morgan Stanley, the challenge was managing its dependence on capital market activities and protecting earnings from market downturns. For Credit Suisse, the challenge was overcoming governance failures, weak risk oversight, and growing credit exposures. Despite operating in the same industry, one institution successfully managed its vulnerabilities and emerged stronger. The other failed to address its weaknesses and ultimately collapsed after 167 years of history. The question is, why did Morgan Stanley survive while Credit Suisse failed? To understand why, we need to go back to the beginning. But before we begin, let's see if people around campus have actually heard of these two banks. Let's go. Alright guys, okay. I'm going to interview some people and ask them about Morgan Stanley, okay? Okay, so we have one person here. Let's ask him. Excuse me, bro. Excuse me. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Do you know about Morgan Stanley?
No.
Okay, he doesn't know about it. Okay, next person, guys. Okay, guys, for the next person, I think we're going to find someone who's actually studying in the class. Let's go. Okay, found one. Let's go. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hi.
Have you heard of Credit Suisse?
No, but I've heard of credit cards.
Okay guys, so they also don't know about Credit Suisse. Hello, I'm a reporter from Wall Street Journal and I have an interview with the CEO of Morgan Stanley.
Oh yeah, sure. Come in. Let me assist you to Mr. CEO. Let's go. I'll say, here's the Mr. CEO.
Good morning, Mr. CEO.
Come and have a seat.
So, Mr. CEO, I have been wondering about Morgan Stanley. Can you explain to me further what is Morgan Stanley all about?
So the main issue is the slowdown in the capital market activity. So in 2022, the rising interest rate reduced the IPOs, mergers and acquisition, and overall deal flow. So this directly weakened our investment banking revenue, which heavily depends on the capital market activities. However, our diversified model helps stabilize our Sorry, I have taken a call. Hello? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Sorry, I just had a call from the senior management. And can we reschedule our meeting later? Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. CEO. I'll catch you on next time. Alright, thank you.
Today, I will present Morgan Stanley performance analysis from 2020 to 2023. First, let's look at the timeline of key events. In 2020, Morgan Stanley acquired E*TRADE, strengthening its digital brokerage platform and expanding its retail investor base. In 2021, the acquisition of Eaton Vance enhanced its investment management business and diversified its revenue streams. However, in 2022, the Federal Reserve aggressive interest rate hikes reduced IPOs and also mergers and acquisition activities, leading to a weaker investment banking performance. Despite these challenges, Morgan Stanley remained resilient in 2023, supported by a strong wealth management business and stable capital position. Next, I'm going to be explaining about the root cause and financial risk analysis. The company faced market risk as higher interest rate, slow capital market activity, and reduced investment banking revenue. It also experienced interest rate risk, where increased borrowing costs lowered client demands and deal makings. In addition, the integration of E*TRADE and Eaton Vance created an operational risk, requiring effective management of technology, system, and business processes. Finally, looking at the historical performance analysis, Morgan Stanley achieved strong growth during 2020 and 2021 due to favorable market conditions. Performance weakened in 2022 and early 2023 2023 as interest rate hikes which affected the financial market. However, in 2023 and 2024, the company recovered through its strong wealth management business, stable revenue, and diversified operation. Overall, Morgan Stanley Company demonstrated resilience by effectively managing financial risk and maintaining stable performance despite a challenging economic environment. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Darnish, and for this slide, I'll be presenting the Morgan Stanley Risk Management and Governance Effectiveness. Now, let's begin with the risk identification. The firm faced three categories of risk. First is the market risk, which was mainly driven by its heavy dependence on the capital market activities and high concentration in institutional securities. Second is the operational risk, particularly from the integration of E-Trade and E-Wins, which created the complexity in the system and processes. Third is the interest rate risk, as the Federal Reserve's tightening cycle reduced IPO and M&A activities, impacted overall revenue stream for Morgan Stanley. Now, to manage this risk, Morgan Stanley implemented several mitigation strategies. For market risk, the firm diversified its business through E-Trade and E-Wins and expanded its wealth and investment management division. For operational risk, it strengthened integration governance, improved technology system harmonization, and enhanced compliances oversight. For interest rate risk, it focused on stable, fee-based income and maintained a strong retail deposit base through E-Trade, ensuring a balance sheet resilient. From a governance perspective, the company demonstrated a strong board oversight and leadership stability, including a smooth CEO transition from James Gorman to Ted Pick, ensuring a strategic continuity. It also maintained disciplined decision making, focusing on diversification and long term growth. Overall, despite the financial market contraction and industry wide challenges, Morgan Stanley proactive governance and risk control helped sustain resilience and competitiveness. Thank you.
Hey, hey guys, I'm a reporter from Wall Street Journal. Have you guys by chance heard of Credit Suisse?
Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse, it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Is it the bank that we have done the research before?
The assignment.
Yes, it's certainly a bank. What do you guys know about Credit Suisse, if I may know?
Okay, like since we've done an assignment recently on it, let's take you through what really happened.
Based on this slide, it shows that the collapse of Credit Suisse did not happen because of one event, but through a series of connected failures over time. Okay, in the first phase, which is during 2019 to 2020, the crisis began with the spying scandal and the resignation of CEO, which became an early warning sign of weak governance and leadership stability. In second phase, the bank faced major credit risk, failure through the collapse of Greensill and Archegos, exposing weakness in risk monitoring and resulting in significant financial losses. Moving into phase 3, market confidence declined and large deposit outflows began, increasing pressure on the bank. And the phase 4, the situation developed into a systemic crisis as liquidity pressure intensified despite emergency support. And finally, in phase 5, Credit Suisse was taken over by UBS. Okay, then we proceed to the root cause and the risk analysis why the collapse of Credit Suisse happened. The first factor is governance failures and leadership instability. The spying scandal and leadership change reveals weaknesses in internal control and damage the bank reputation. The second factor is weak counterparty assessment and credit concentration, which became the most critical issue. Exposure to Greensill and Archegos show failures in credit evaluation and risk control, leading to multi-billion dollars losses. And the third factor is loss of stakeholder confidence and deposit withdrawals. As trust decline, customers and investors withdraw funds, creating severe liquidity pressure. In conclusion, weak governance trigger poor risk management, which can reduce market confidence and accelerate the collapse of Credit Suisse.
Before discussing the risks and governance failures, it is important to understand how Credit Suisse's performance deteriorated over time. In 2020, Credit Suisse appeared financially stable. The bank reported a net profit of approximately CHF 2.7 billion and maintained a healthy CET1 ratio of 12.9%. However, beneath this strong performance, governance weaknesses had already begun to emerge, including the corporate spying scandal and leadership instability. The situation changed significantly in 2021 when Credit Suisse was hit by the collapses of Greensill Capital and Archegos Capital Management. These incidents exposed weaknesses in the bank's risk management practices and resulted in major financial losses. As a result, the bank recorded a net loss of CHF 1.6 billion. In 2022, the crisis deepened further. Credit Suisse reported a net loss of CHF 7.3 billion, while restructuring efforts, leadership changes, and negative publicity continued to weaken investor confidence. The bank's share price also fell sharply during this period. By 2023, the crisis had evolved into a full confidence crisis. Customers and investors began withdrawing funds, creating severe liquidity pressure. Although emergency liquidity support was provided by the Swiss National Bank, confidence could not be restored and Credit Suisse was ultimately acquired by UBS, ending its 167-year history as an independent bank. Now, let's move on to the risk identification, risk mitigation, governance, and economic consequences. The deterioration of Credit Suisse can be explained through several key risks. First was governance risk, which arose from weak leadership, poor oversight, and repeated scandals that damaged stakeholder trust. Second was credit risk, the most significant risk, as the bank failed to properly manage its exposure to Greensill Capital and Archegos Capital Management, resulting in billions of dollars in losses. Third was liquidity risk, which emerged when declining confidence triggered large-scale withdrawals by customers and investors. To address these challenges, Credit Suisse implemented several mitigation measures, including restructuring initiatives, improvements to risk controls, and governance reforms aimed at strengthening oversight and accountability. However, these actions were largely reactive and introduced only after substantial losses had already occurred. The effectiveness of governance and decision-making was also limited. The bank experienced frequent leadership changes, weak board oversight, and delayed responses to emerging risks. Management often prioritized short-term profitability over long-term risk management, allowing vulnerabilities to accumulate over time. As a result, the economic consequences were severe. Financial markets experienced increased volatility. Shareholders suffered significant losses, and AT1 bondholders lost approximately CHF 16 billion. Ultimately, regulators intervened through emergency liquidity support and facilitated the UBS acquisition to prevent wider systemic disruption. Overall, the collapse of Credit Suisse demonstrates how weak governance, ineffective risk management, and delayed corrective actions can lead to the failure of a globally significant financial institution.
Yeah, so that's it about Credit Suisse.
Oh, okay, I see. That's very brilliant of you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Why did Morgan Stanley succeed while Credit Suisse failed? So, after examining both companies, we can now answer the central question of this investigation. Although both institutions operated within the same economic environment and faced similar macroeconomic challenges, their approaches towards risk management were fundamentally different. Why? So, Morgan Stanley recognized that its dependence on capital market activities exposed the firm to earning volatility. Rather than waiting for market conditions to deteriorate, management proactively diversified its business through the acquisition of E-Trade and A10 Funds. So this strategic decision strengthened the wealth management and investment management strategies that creating more stable and also recurring sources of revenue. In contrast, Credit Suisse failed to adequately address long-term standing, governance and risk management weaknesses. Despite multiple warning signs, the management did not take sufficient action to strengthen internal controls, manage counterparty exposures, or also restore stakeholder confidence. Another key difference was how both institutions approached risk identification. So, Morgan Stanley identified vulnerabilities before they became major problems and implemented preventative measures to strengthen resilience. Credit Suisse, however, largely reacted after significant losses had already occurred, making recovery increasingly difficult. And ultimately, institutional failures. Therefore, Morgan Stanley succeeded because of it acted before the crisis, whereas Credit Suisse failed because it acted after the crisis.
Based from the study that we have completed, Morgan Stanley and Credit Suisse provide both important lessons for the financial institutions out there. Firstly, if the effective risk management begins with the early risk identifications, Morgan Stanley recognized its dependence on the capital market activity as their potential on the slow and implemented the strategic measures before the external shocks even occurred. However, Credit Suisse failed to address their governance weakness and growing risk exposure despite the multiple warning signs that they have received. Secondly is the strong corporate governance, which is very essential for maintaining the organizational stability. Effective oversight, accountability, and risk monitoring help to ensure that risks are identified and managed before they turn into a major crisis. However, for the Credit Suisse, the case clearly demonstrates how weak governance can greatly undermine stakeholder confidence and threaten institution survivals. Overall, both cases of this study demonstrate that long-term success is not determined by the absence of the risk, but by an institution's ability to identify, assess, and respond towards the risk effectively.
Based on the finding of the study, several recommendations can be proposed for the financial institution seeking to strengthen their risk management frameworks. Firstly, the organization should adopt a proactive approach to risk identifications by continuously monitoring the emerging of risks and conducting regular stress and testing under the different economic scenario, because early detections allow management to implement proactive actions before the risk even begin to significant threats. And secondly, financial institutions should strengthen the corporate governance structure by enhancing the board oversight, improving the accountability mechanisms, and ensuring that risk management function remain independent from the revenue generation activities. Strong governance helps to reduce the likelihoods of the excessive risk-taking and improve the organizational decision-making. And thirdly, firms should maintain their diversified business and revenue streams to reduce the excessive dependence on any single sources of income. A diversified revenue structure can improve the earning stability and increase the resilience during the periods of economic uncertainty. And by implementing these recommendations, financial institutions can improve their ability to withstand future uncertainties and maintain the stakeholder confidence and achieve sustainability future long-term growth.
At the beginning of this investigation, we asked one question. How could two banks operating in the same environment experiencing completely different outcomes? Now, we know the answer. The success of the company was not determined by the risks that they faced, but by how did they manage to face those risks. That's all from us. Thank you.